I didn't find Nigeria to be as crazy as most people present it to be. Let me just put it that way. I was mostly around family. So I was only there for a short period of time. I only stayed with family, and usually most people don't know I'm in until I'm out. I went with a concerned mind. So as in I was mostly on guard. Like I kept my eyes open, as they will say. I shine my eye where well. Yeah, which is contrary to what people said, like, stay away from Uber and whatever. But I speak Yoruba from time to time, but all 100% no English. I am not out at night. Once it gets dark, wherever I am, I'm spending the night there. I pretty much hang mostly around family. It's different from most people that go home. If you're going on business trip, as in just know your surrounding, know the people you're hanging out with, know the places that you're visiting, and I think you should be relatively safe in as long as you keep to that.
Are you afraid of visiting Nigeria? Are you someone living in diaspora who have not been back to Nigeria since you left the country? Are you following social media and Western foreign news outlets that endlessly continue to report how kidnappers are on the loose in Nigeria? Or are you surrounded by friends who tell you that you must be out of your mind for thinking about visiting Nigeria? Perhaps you're married to a Nigerian and you'd like to someday visit Nigeria with your spouse. Or maybe it's Boko Haram, the endless stories about corruption, insecurity, that is making you rethink your visit to Nigeria. If any of this applies to you, if you're having second thoughts about visiting Nigeria, but you have friends, family, or maybe you have a wedding or like a funeral to attend, and you still want to visit Nigeria regardless, then this episode is for you. In this episode, I sit down with a friend who just returned from Nigeria as of 2022, and he provides some useful tips and advice on why you shouldn't be too afraid to visit Nigeria. We start with expectations on arrival, some tips and tricks that you find invaluable all throughout your visit in Nigeria. Please make sure to share this episode with someone you know if you find it useful. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Lost Lagosians. I'm your host, Brother Mike. We have a repeat co-host here with us today, Mr. Roland. He was actually on earlier. I believe it's episode 11. So if you guys wanted to follow up on the previous episode he was on, it's episode 11, How to Touch 10 Nigerians. So really happy to have him on. He just came back from a trip in Nigeria, and I thought, why not just kind of talk to him about how things are going, just to update us on what's going on. Again, thank you for joining us. My name is Brother Mike, the host of this show. Every week we bring to you guys interesting stories and just topics around what's trending in Lagos and Nigeria. If you're following us on any podcasting platform, please go ahead and leave us a review. If you're on Apple, leave us a review on Apple. That really helps to make the show visible to more people. Without further ado, let's go ahead and reintroduce our guest, Mr. Roland. Thank you for being here, Mr. Roland. Really appreciate your time. How are you doing? How is everything? And how's life in general?
Not bad, can't complain. Life is going relatively well.
Cool. So you recently made a trip back home. I always like talking to people who've been to Nigeria of late, just to catch up and see how everything is going on, especially those who are here in the States or in diaspora. So just to kind of do a check-in on how things are going and what the experiences might have been since returning. When did you visit Nigeria? Like what month?
I visited Nigeria the last 2 weeks of April.
Okay, so at the time of this recording, we're recording here mid of May. So you were there probably less than a month ago or thereabout.
About 3 weeks ago.
How long ago were you there before your most recent visit 3 weeks ago?
2019, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
So that was before COVID.
Before COVID, yes.
Things were probably very different given that we're just coming out of COVID, right?
I'm not sure, as in things were different, but I don't think it has anything to do with COVID.
You might say more.
As in, there's some, for lack of a better term, some reorganization that has gone on in and around the airport.
Oh, okay.
There's some work, pretty much. There's some work that has been done around, the roads leading into the airport or leaving the airport.
You're talking about Murtala Airport, right?
Yeah, Murtala Airport, yeah. So there have been some improvements that are quite visible when you fly.
Now, I think they're building another extension, like a new carport or something like that. Is that?
They actually completed the carport. I think the carport has always been there. If I remember if I remember correctly, when I went there before the pandemic started, it was just commissioned. It was built by CCC, I believe, the Chinese construction company. It was completed. What was not completed was the new terminal that was being built next to the parking garage structure.
Oh, right. Okay. Is that the international? Do you know, or is it local?
I believe it's international.
International. CCC to me, sorry, I can't just get past that. It's like Celestial Church of Christ.
Oh yeah.
So it's the Chinese construction company. I'm sure they have a heavy presence in Nigeria, clearly.
I saw a lot of signage about them. The building roads, building infrastructure all over. I saw them in Ogun State too. They were actually building bridges and roads in Ogun State. So.
Oh, okay.
I think they're making good inroads into Nigeria.
Isn't that because of the loan though?
That I cannot speak to how they got their contracts and what they're doing in there. But they seem to be in charge of what's going on. I see the locals are the ones working, and things are being run by the foreigners or by the Chinese.
As of 2020, Nigeria was borrowing a total of $3.12 billion from China. So no surprises there that you have a lot of CCC presence. That data is from the Debt Management Office of Nigeria. The website is dmo.gov.ng. So roughly $3.121 billion is how much the total of as of March 2020. I'm sure that number has gone up significantly since then, but just saying, CCC is everywhere. So you come out of the airport. I mean, how was that experience?
So as in coming out the airport itself, obviously, I don't see any improvements in the airport structure itself, the old Muritala Mohammed Airport. Same old Nigerian way of doing, their things. Then you come to where you pick up your bags, it's still the same. I don't think from that point of view, nothing has changed. It's still, the process is still as inefficient as possible. They behave like they don't know the size of what is coming through, and they try to cram, that many people into such small spaces. It might just be because they don't have the infrastructure to manage it, but the story still remains the same. Coming out from the airport is a different story entirely. The officers are still there trying to obtain you as usual. What have you brought? Bless us. Same old story. Like, you're coming from abroad. What have you brought us? That kind of a thing. However, once you step out from the doors, unlike before, wherein you could have family and friends meet you right at the door, that is no more. Actually, people not traveling are not allowed to come that far in anymore. Surprisingly, your family and friends cannot come, but the people that hassle you for taxi or to help you push your cart, to help you do something, they are all still there, like, just bugging the life out of you. Oh God, make I push this cart for you. And I'm like, obviously I bought the cart because I can push the cart. Why do I need to? I didn't need you to push the cart. But obviously, even those that did not push the cart want to be blessed by you. So those people were all there. It's quite a decent walk. There's a walkway that you walk all the way. So before you can meet your family, you have to come all the way to the parking garage. And at that point, you then see your family. And at which point, you encounter all the wonderful BDC people, trying to change all the money you brought and, what have you not. But from that standpoint, I think it was a little bit more, how will I put it? It looked a little bit saner coming out of the airport. It's not like, the mad rush of random people all standing out there and what have you not. So it looks good. And then, from that point on, it was just about, paying for your parking in the garage and we're out of there. So pretty much from the time I picked up the bag, getting through immigration and getting out of that area, I'd probably say all of 30 to 40 minutes, so which was pretty decent. Yeah,
no, thank you for sharing that. So you didn't have to do the pre-COVID tests because we were vaccinated?
So yeah, if you're vaccinated, you didn't. Okay. We still had to fill the form and get the QR code. right?
The arrival form, yeah, but because I think they scrapped that in March.
Yeah, so pretty much you didn't have to take the free test and that stuff, but you still have to fill the form.
And you don't have to also check in 2 days later.
You don't have to check later either. Yes, if you are vaccinated.
Yeah.
If you are not vaccinated, it's a different story entirely.
Yeah. So I was in Nigeria in February and I had to do all of that. So I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah.
Because I paid more. I paid quite a bit. I think it was 47 or 50,000 naira. But you didn't have to do any of that. So that's good news. So you get into Nigeria. I mean, overall, though, what's the whole vibe and everything? Just the whole environment.
As in, my perspective is slightly different from most people. Okay. Like me talking to other people going home, they were like, "Oh, Omo, be careful out there. Everyone is out there looking to grab this, looking to do this, so that I don't get kidnapped. Stay out of this." And I'm like, okay, yeah, definitely there were some concerns, but I honestly didn't feel unsafe. Right? Maybe the element of unsafeness was there, but I could not feel it.
Were you around family, friends?
I was only around family. So I was only there for a short period of time. I only stayed with family, and usually
that helps.
Most people don't know I'm in until I'm out. So that kind of helps a little bit. I did take public transportation just to feel the vibe. It was all right.
Also, you're entering like all the Molu and Downfall and all that.
Yeah,
Are you serious?
I took Downfall. I took Okada Marwa. I took Okada.
You take BRT too?
I didn't take BRT because they changed the process for BRT. I actually like the BRT because on the BRT they have the dedicated lane that allows me to skip traffic. But when I got there this time around, they're like, "Oh, I can't buy the BRT ticket. I have to have a BRT card." I'm like, "Where do I get the BRT card?" And I can't buy the BRT card at the bus stop. I'm like, "Okay, whatever, you guys." I could not buy it right there and there. Like, okay, forget you. I'm out of here. Yeah, so.
I think you texted me too, like you were driving at one point. How was that? Like just driving in Nigeria, in Lagos in general, I mean.
Driving was all right. In as long as I stayed away from checkpoints, which looked like it was almost impossible. There were checkpoints everywhere, but I guess I locked out in the fact that I never got stopped. But driving is just as crazy. You just have to be as crazy as the next person around you.
So you must not be driving a flashy car. I'm
not sure that really matters. There were a lot of flashy cars out there.
It's Nigeria. What do you expect?
It was all right. As in, as long as you can blend in, I don't think it was a big problem. So I didn't find Nigeria to be as crazy as most people present it to be. Let me just put
Why is that? Is it just perspective, or because you went with an open mind?
I won't say I went with an open mind. I went with a concerned.
You went with
a concerned mind. A concerned mind.
A concerned mind. That's a good word. Concerned mind. What does that even mean? Concerned mind.
So, as in, I was mostly on guard. Like I kept my eyes open, as they would say. I shine my eye very well. Even though I was taking public transportation, it was on my own terms, right?
Okay. I couldn't do that. When I went, I had a driver. So, and they're not very expensive. You can get a driver.
I heard about that. For me, I just didn't feel comfortable about people waiting on me. Right? I have a driver. He drops me off, and then he has to wait, or I have to call him and then wait for him to come, and all of that. As in, given that I'm always jumping around, like I was continuously moving. I had a very short time to spend in Nigeria, so and I had so much to accomplish while I was there. So that didn't leave me more room. I used Uber from time to time. I found Okadas to be easy through traffic, and there are some areas wherein Okada Marwa was what was available. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Isn't Okada dangerous though?
Hey, isn't your car dangerous?
Anyway, you are a proper eco guy generally anyway, so
yes,
it's in your blood already, so you can never really
escape it.
I understand.
I understand the risk. I understand the concern that most people have about it, right?
That's true.
Sometimes they're crazy, but at least I'm not doing it. They're not doing a wheelie while I'm on it, right? Right there, right? They don't have the front wheel up and then just ride it on the back wheel.
Yeah. That's when you lift the wheel up. Yeah, you couldn't. I mean, not in that Lagos. You don't have enough room or space to do that. Okay.
Yeah, it was all right.
So overall, your trip was pretty much pleasant, which is good. I mean, if that's
when you say pleasant is a very loaded word. In terms of movement around, I found this last trip to be a lot more convenient, especially around the axis I was moving around. Many of the roads were no longer under construction. So
what part of Lagos, do you mind me asking?
I spent most of my time on the mainland.
Okay.
I didn't go to I didn't go past the Tonlamri at all.
Island can be rough in terms of traffic.
Yeah, so Maryland, Ikeja, Ikorodu, all that access. I found it to be Oshodi, Isolo, all those places where usually going from Anthony to Isolo. The last time I went before this time would take at least, if you go at 4 or 5 o'clock, it take at least 2 hours.
PM.
It would take at 4 p.m. during rush hours after school is closed and people going home. It take at least an hour and a half to 2 before. But this time around, at 4 o'clock, traffic was flowing. It's slow, but it's moving.
Yeah, and that's not the Okada factor.
No, not the Okada factor. This is just public transportation. This is just downfall. So even if I'm taking a Uber, at night I actually prefer to use the Uber. Surprisingly, so
that's contrary to many.
Yeah, which is contrary to what people said, stay away from Uber at night, and whatever. But that's why I said my experience is different from majority of the stories I've heard so far.
Yeah, and also speaking Yoruba, does that help at all?
Usually I prefer to speak Pidgin. So I speak Yoruba from time to time, but 100% no English.
Of course, yeah, because your accent will, California will come out. Yeah. The other thing I was, probably tease you on is we can give our audience 5 tips to stay safe when you visit Nigeria, when you visit Lagos in particular, or Nigeria. If you had 5 safety tips based on you coming back, end of April, which was 3 weeks ago. What are the top 5 things, if you can rattle 5 out, if someone was visiting Nigeria in 2022?
I'm not a night person. I'm not out at night. Once it gets dark, wherever I am, I'm spending the night there. I pretty much hang mostly around family. It's different from most people that go home. If you're going on business trip, just know your surrounding, know the people you're hanging out with, know the places that you're visiting, and I think you should be relatively safe, in as long as you keep to that. Most of the places I went to are places that I know in my sleep and have not changed much. Right? I know the hooks, the corners and the back sides of most of those places. So
yeah, you grew up in those areas, so yeah.
Yeah, so that also added to my comfortability in those areas. So yeah, I stick to places I know very well. There are many places that I'll go through and people are like, how do you know this? And I'm like, yeah, been there, done that.
Right.
Yeah, so I think for me that was one of the things for me in Nigeria to kind of stay safe, and I try as much as possible to blend in, and I think people used to mistake me for someone that just came from maybe I came from Abuja or came from Ghana or something. I'm relatively local. Yeah, so it's different. And when I go to my business meetings, obviously, that's very different. It's a very different setting. I think that's the major thing.
Yeah, so just to kind of summarize, number one, spend the night wherever you're at. Do not travel at night, hang around family, number 2. So make sure the people you...
I won't call it hang around family. Hang around known associates, like people you know and trust. As in, because hey, not everyone have to be around family, and maybe family could have their own dramas and stuff. I'm lucky not to have a family
with drama.
With drama. So
and for those that are not Nigerians visiting, they may not have family. Their family might be visiting, in the UK.
That's correct.
Or Canada.
Yes.
So primarily just hang around people that you're familiar with, people that you trust. You said know where you are going and know your surroundings.
Know where you are. Yes.
And know where you are. How do you know where you are if you're a visitor and you're not? No Banikoro made Californian.
I cannot speak on behalf of visitors.
But maybe visitors should be around people who know their surroundings very well.
Exactly.
And have familiarity.
Yes, that's correct. Right. So either you find a guide, and
a guide,
someone that is familiar with where you are, and that can sense when things are not right. Right. And can,
if that happens, I doubt that if you go there open spirited. I think a lot of what we hear is just like media or the 0.001%.
Well,
Nigerians are generally caring people.
Well, the way I look at it is that, like, the proliferation of the internet and the passing around of information has become so easy and so widespread. I remember when we grew up, they used to talk about bomo. We used to hear about people missing and stuff like that. I'm not sure, like, how much of that has increased, as in by what factor it has increased. But many of those concepts are not new concepts. Those are concepts that have been. I remember growing up, like, one boy, he has somebody shoe, right?
Or they'll touch you and turn you into like.
They'll touch you and turn you into yam or turn you into some crazy stuff like that.
Yeah.
So those concepts and during those times we still were playing ball on the street, right? We didn't
soccer.
Because of that. We didn't because of someone will touch you and turn into yam, not play street soccer during the summer, right? So And in general, people are conscious. People are actually very conscious in Nigeria about their surrounding. And I think the same thing when you go home. Just be conscious.
Yeah, I agree with that conscious part, because when I was in Nigeria, I kept my line, my US line, just like you probably did. So when I went there, I'll call people. I'll meet someone now and I'll call you from my number tomorrow, and they never answer. Many people don't answer. It's like, hey, I called you. It's like, oh no, I don't know that number. I don't recognize that number because they never saved my phone. Yeah. So people in Nigeria generally, they don't know who it is that is calling them, because there's this phobia that you might call them and turn them into a yam probably. So they didn't answer your call.
Those are just new concepts, right? At the very beginning, any number that call you pick up and they're like, "Oga, who you be?" Right? But nowadays, people are, getting away from people spamming them, people asking for this, people asking for that.
Yep.
So that could be a part of it. When I was in Nigeria, I actually used a local number.
Oh, good. Okay.
But I wasn't calling people mostly, so I use that number mostly for internet.
But don't you need NIN to get the identification number now these days?
It is Nigeria we're talking about, man.
There are ways around some things.
There's a way around everything.
All right. But just to summarize, though, what you're saying is spend the night wherever you are at. That's number one. Number two, be around people that you are familiar with. Doesn't necessarily have to be family. Know where you're going. Number three, and be with somebody who knows where you're going. Try to be familiar with your surroundings. Number four, try to blend in. So don't
as much as possible. Don't be stuck up.
Don't be stuck up.
Stick out like a thumb.
Or stick out like a thumb, and don't be speaking in. Then number five, just be security conscious of wherever you are. So those are like really, really good top fives.